It's the halfway point, everybody, in the world of college football. Good stuff, or am I right? Let us talk about some big headlines, make some Heisman Trophy candidate discussions, talk about the teams that should be there, shouldn't be there, and make picks for week 6. Alex and Nicho are here for college football week 5. What's up, gentlemen?
How's it going? How you doing?
Boys, happy to be back.
All right. We had a little technical difficulties to start, but those are behind us now. And we are ready to have a lot of fun. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
All
Let's do
right.
it.
Colorado back in the news. They play another top 10 ranked team. This time, the University of Southern California. The Trojans go to Colorado. At one point, USC was up by a score of 41-14. Caleb Williams had 6 touchdowns by himself. And yet, the Buffalo stormed back, but Colorado was able to hold on. And but USC is able to hold on, and they get the victory. And so 2 things to go here. USC at 5-0 right now, Colorado 3-2. But Colorado is just 1 win away from, or 2 wins away from having their future bets over. So good stuff from there. So what did you really get out of this game? Was this comeback? Was this a comeback where the Trojans didn't really take the Buffalo seriously and they stormed back? Or maybe Colorado has a little more fight in them with, of course, a very inspiring head coach.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely great game. Great games. Good to see Colorado make that a game in the second half. My biggest takeaway from that game itself is the USC defense. Caleb Williams, big first half, balled out. I think anyone could ball out on that Colorado defense, but USC's defense is a big question mark. You got some games. You got Notre Dame coming up, Utah. Um, you got to go play Oregon in late November. You have all these teams versus Washington. You have to play against all these elite teams coming up. You're gonna let Colorado hang 41 on you. I know Colorado got a lot of points late in the game, and was kind of distant the whole entire time, but I just really am concerned about USC's defense going forward, and don't think they're going to be able to beat these teams like Notre Dame. Don't think they'll beat Washington. Don't think they'll beat Oregon at this point. Caleb Williams, obviously, arguably the best player in all college football right now. He's going to ball out. He's going to do what he has to do. In my opinion, besides that offense, USC's not impressing me. I'm worried about them going forward after this one.
I kind of agree with you, Nicho. I think like they have to win one type of way, which is shootouts, and they're very lucky and very blessed and fortunate that Colorado got off to a rocky start. Once they kind of got under their skis, they were kind of chipping away for 3 quarters. Colorado, but you could see that it was really hard for Lincoln Riley and that team to sustain because even the best offenses in the world can't compete if you're a one-dimensional team. If you look at really like Colorado's offensive efficiency outside of excluding the first quarter, they were like lights out. I mean, they were 50% on third down. They had more first downs completed than USC for the entire game, and they actually controlled time of possession. And as even with the injuries that Colorado has in the lesser roster, and they doubled them up in rushing yards, which is unbelievable. So on the ground, they control the ground game, and that's just it's just a formula for disaster for a team that's supposed to be a top 5 team. I think it's pretty prototypical of a Pac-12, powerhouse, alleged powerhouse in the Pac-12, like USC that has to win shootouts. But if that's the way that they have to win, they have to own it. And it's going to be interesting to see when they play Washington, what they're up against.
Absolutely.
And I want to see that matchup with Pennick Jr. versus Caleb Williams. Yeah. And yeah, it seems that sometimes I feel looking at USC, is this more of truly Caleb Williams' team? Like, God forbid if he was hurt, they would be really lost. I don't even know I couldn't even tell you who quarterback 2 is there. But sometimes I really feel that seeing this team, like he really is everything. Absolutely. That could be a problem when I'm sorry to interrupt, but just to see when anything slips, especially defensively, it's they just feel, oh, Caleb could take care of it, but it's not really how you should run a team in any college, in any football level, really, except maybe high school.
You said it perfect. You're absolutely right. This is not how you do it. Like you can't just rely on one guy. Notre Dame in 2 weeks as well. Hartman, another quarterback that's elite. He's just gonna hang one up on this defense. you got to think Caleb Williams is really helping his draft stock, though. I'm a believer. I think Caleb Williams is going to be unbelievable. I really think he has a
Yeah.
lot of potential. Can move, can throw, has a cannon. But yeah, this team is not going anywhere, in my opinion. I expect them to have 3 regular season losses.
And they're gonna have a hard time down the stretch, not only with Washington but Oregon. And fast forward another week, going home for Utah. Utah is going to keep it a low defensive game, so
They're
going to
really
be
good
pushed.
this year.
Yeah, they're really good. I think they're highly underrated, particularly with the way that the style of offense and the style of defense that they want to play. So they got their hands full. It's a long season. I think this is more prototypical. This is more of a calling card of the way they're playing as Lincoln Riley's team, harkening back to OU, than it really is Caleb Williams. I think he's just the best show for that team, but it's Lincoln Riley's team.
Absolutely.
Lincoln Riley finally makes the jump to the pros, you think, soon?
No.
He's great. He's great at winning his team Heisman's, not trophies. Great winning Heisman's.
He's already seen like Lane Kiffin and Saban flame out. I don't think he's gonna fall for that. I don't think he is. He's got too good a situation.
That's also why I don't think Deion Sanders is going pro. He said it in a 60 Minutes interview that he wouldn't go. You can't really discipline professionals. Like, he's able to discipline and motivate college students, and that makes a big difference. And so people know their place and know they won't get embarrassingly cut out and stuff. So future's bright for somebody in USC, but as a team as a whole, we will ultimately see. And speaking of, you mentioned Sam Hartman, Notre Dame gets the victory over Duke this week on the primetime game on Saturday night. Another back and forth shootout that Sam Hartman was able to win. But good effort from Duke and the Blue Devils. How do we now? It seems that Notre Dame really has to win out the rest of the season if they want to get a college football bid. And I picked and I think Sam Hartman's game, especially showing his composure, game management. And I know he's an older person. He's 25 years old playing in college football still, but I think that wisdom is a good thing for the Fighting Irish, and especially in that game for Duke, where a few less mistakes and it could have gone the other way and killed their season. But Notre Dame stays alive in a very important game, telling that I think that, especially losing Ohio State last week, they're closing the gap with the powerhouses, and they too are getting on a bigger level that we've seen in honestly a couple of decades. But how do we feel about Notre Dame's win over Duke, and if it's telling anything for this team in particular?
I think I was really impressed. I was happy the Irish were able to pull that one out late, with 38 seconds left, I believe it was, on the clock for Duke. I will say this Notre Dame team has been tested, and they're going to keep continuing to get tested. These little games versus not little games, but versus Duke, the NC States of the world, the Louisvilles of the world. These are still all top 25 teams. Yeah, they're not the Bamas, Georgias that we're used to, but these teams aren't bad teams at all. Even for the Notre Dame has 6 games left this year, I think 5 out of 6 games will be single-digit spreads. Every single game they're in is a battle. They're going to be tested, and I personally think the Irish will run the table. I think they beat USC. I think they're going to go on. They're going to beat Pittsburgh. I believe they play later on. They play Wake Forest, and they have another battle testing game this week. Louisville's top 25. It's nonstop pressure for the Irish. Lost against Ohio State. They're 4 seconds away from winning that game and being arguably the best team in the country right now. But Notre Dame, I think, runs the table down the road. I think they are going to get into the playoff. But yeah, man, it doesn't stop for the Irish. They're just tested every single week.
Yeah, and I think you made a you made a great point, Nico. I think sneakily the ACC is stacked and loaded outside of their top 3. I mean, it as a Syracuse fan, but it's the Dukes, the North Carolinas, the Wake Forest, the Louis, they have teams. So it's not like they have formidable opponents that kind of fill out the bottom of the top 25, but they have top opponents. So I thought this was definitely a quality win. And I think, as the season progresses, even if they do run the table, which they certainly can, I think that Ohio State loss matures a lot better than people will give it credit for. I think I was down on Ohio State at the beginning of the season just because I didn't see them stacking up with the rest. But what I've seen from USC thus far, and LSU particularly, I definitely want to rescind and kind of walk that back a little bit at this juncture of the season. But Notre Dame, I mean, they played a tough game. They didn't blow me off the page, they didn't blow me off the screen, but they just know how to win games, and they keep doing it. And Harmon's, kind of the poster child for that. He's been through a lot of snaps. He's seen the field, so to speak, with the rest of these teams across the league. He's a savant, and they could easily run the table, and I think they will.
Good. I only hope so. I really want to see this team make some strides. Go Fighting Irish.
I would love to see Notre Dame and a Penn State sneak into the playoffs.
Oh man,
love that.
A lot of fun for sure. A lot of fun there.
That USC Notre Dame is going to be super high rated TV.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, another classic rivalry game.
Yep.
And stuff like that should be good. Now, speaking of Penn State, we haven't talked too much about them this season. Playing against Northwestern, one of the couple schools have been embarrassed in the national spotlight, if you will, with their hazing issues in the offseason. It seems nobody's going to their games, and they were a ranked school within the decade. They had a pretty good program, and they're just collapsing. And at one point in this game, the Nittany Lions had some struggles on the road. They were tied at 10-10 coming into the first half, but they able to make a push again and get a pretty convincing victory. But do you think at any point something that can happen again? Is this a sign of something that especially, you're able to take advantage of a weaker opponent like that, but maybe it gets more as the season gets more difficult. It won't be so easy if you don't come out of the gates blazing.
Absolutely. Yeah, you need. Oh, you want to go, Alex?
Oh well, I have an admission to make, so I want to kind of clear the room. So I'll give you go first.
Okay. Yeah, my take is this is the first time I think Penn State's really truly been tested this year. West Virginia game, obviously, like West Virginia is a better team than Northwestern, but I'm talking about like in sense of the game. Being tied at halftime, they came out in the second half and balled out, and that's what you got to do in those games. You got to make halftime adjustments. Like I said a couple weeks ago on the podcast, because I can't wait for teams like USC to do it. But going to Northwestern at noon is tough. It's a weird game that you don't really want to play in. And I think Penn State really battled in the second half and showed why they are a top 5 team in the country. I think they're at like 6 right now, I believe. But I'm excited for that game versus Ohio State in a couple weeks and see what they can really do. But I was very impressed the way that Penn State handled being somewhat in a close game down the stretch at half.
So I have a confession. It's going on the record, Matt. You all heard it first. Penn State is the best team in the Big Ten.
And a very big year for the Big Ten too.
Yes, and that's a mouthful. I was big on Michigan going to the chip. I still think that they can get there, but from what I've seen through 5-6 weeks, they are the best team on TV, on paper, in the Big Ten, and it's all 3 phases of the game. They've been totally dominant at the helm through the quarterback position, shutting out Iowa, beating down Northwestern. I mean, some of these are not necessarily the quality wins that you would see, but Utah was an unbelievable win. Pardon me, not Utah. The West Virginia game was a big underrated win, but I think as you go through the next 3 weeks or so, Maryland's going to be a tough game. I think they could win that game. Michigan, they get them at home. That's a huge game. And then Rutgers is going to be tough momentarily, but I think they can win that game. I think the Ohio State will be the true early test to see how they forge forward with a lot of their resilience. I think that this is the best team in the Big Ten.
Alex, and I know it's a crazy take. I 100% agree. I think this is Penn State's year. This is a year where there's no powerhouse. Like there's no true team. Like you have your Georgias and everything, but Georgia's not Georgia of the past 2 years. Bama's not Bama.
Yeah, we'll get into that next segment too.
Yeah, and Ohio State's not Ohio State that we're used to. This is a year when a team like Penn State, I wouldn't be surprised if this team can win a national championship. I really think this is a year where a team like that can win games, and can really succeed. The one thing that I want to highlight about this team is they are number 2 in the whole entire country in turnovers. They do not turn the ball over. I brought this up in the NFL podcast, but
That's
if
how
you don't
you
turn the
win.
ball over, you win games. And Penn State keeps playing smart football, keep trusting the program. I expect them to be in the Final Four come January.
That would be wild. I would love to see that.
I like that. The only thing, do you feel any hesitation with the return of Jim Harbaugh that maybe that could be a big 10 team that competes with them? Or you still think Penn State has enough of the resources to
I'm
push on
100% a
by?
big I'm a big Harbaugh guy. I think Harbaugh is the best coach in the Big Ten, arguably the best coach in college football. I know a lot of people don't like him. I love him. The one thing that's going to get in the way of this Penn State team, and they can't let it, is James Franklin. James
Mhm.
Franklin clock management is pitiful. If he just lets his team ball out, does what he has to do by doing the bare minimum, knowing when to call timeouts, knowing when to make proper substitutions, things like that. That's something that James Franklin has not been good at in his whole career. This Penn State team will go very far.
I think there's a big difference in playing in Ann Arbor versus playing in University Stadium. I think having this at Penn State at home, that crowd they're probably going to white it out. It's gonna be litty. It's gonna be freaking unbelievable. The energy. I just feel like this is ripe for an upset that's going to keep continuing part of this inertia, this journey that we've been talking about with Penn State. We fall in love with stories with sports, with the NFL, with college football, but I feel like this is one of them because of all the points that you guys made earlier.
All right, good stuff, gentlemen. And speaking of the Georgia Bulldogs, they've had a pretty easy schedule to start the season. No real threats. They play Auburn, and Auburn gave them a run for their money.
Yep.
And at one point, even deep in the fourth quarter, it was tied. It could go on either way, but Georgia was able to rally. What do we think about Georgia? Are they a legit team, number 1 team, or are we ready for them to finally fall?
I can still see them winning. Winning just keeps winning games, keep winning out. They are talented, but they're nowhere near the team that we saw the past 2 years. This week coming up, I know we'll get into it later in the show. Versus Kentucky. But that's another sneaky game for this team. You keep playing these teams like Auburn and things like that. Auburn's nowhere near Auburn used to be. But can't let a team like that hang around. You can't let a team stay around in that game. You have to really show dominance to get the respect. I mean, you can't say they don't have the respect after the 2 seasons they put together back-to-back years, but I just really don't think this Georgia team. They're a team that can win games, and they're going to continue to win games, but I don't think they're a team like last year that you're scared to get off the bus and suit up and play them. I don't think they're anything like that.
No, I don't either. I think the gap is definitely has definitely dwindled, and you see that with some of the recruits that they've taken. They've been drafted to the pros that have gone to the big powerhouse of the NFL. So they're definitely leaner on all 3 phases of the game. I still believe in Kirby Smart. I think this is a great team. I'm not, to answer Matt's point, I'm not ready for them to fall. I'm just ready for them to not be prematurely coronated number 1. I think that they are more deserving of a 2 or a 3 and say, okay, committee, go and make them prove it. Go make them win on the road in Bama or on the road at Mississippi or something of that nature, because we said it at the beginning of the season. They had a cupcake schedule from day one. And they got Kentucky next week at home, but that's really still not quite the test that we're looking for. And right. You got Tennessee on the road towards the end of the season. Who knows what they'll be playing for? And so for me, I don't know how many quality wins that you could really use to kind of advocate for a number 1 seed, but I think they could be pushed around. And you saw with Auburn, even though it's a rivalry within the SEC.
Absolutely. Yeah, and you can see like you mentioned as well, like I could definitely see this team winning games, keep winning out, running the table. But I think you're right. I would love to see this team get 2, 3, even a 4 seed this year. Definitely just see what they can do. I they're not tested, so it's tough to say right now. Like Auburn was an okay test for them, but again, SEC rivalry games, there's that rivalry factor, like you mentioned, that it could have been. But I'm very curious to see what this team will be like when they're officially tested and see how they can react.
And Auburn ran all over them too, which is unbelievable.
And
It's
that's
crazy.
You couldn't run for anything on them. In recent, you couldn't do anything.
We had the University of Texas have a very comfortable 40-14 victory over the Kansas City Jayhawks. They too continue to stay undefeated. Do you expect them to do that? Do they expect them with Quinn Ewers to stay undefeated all season long? I think there is a good shot.
I think there is as well. I think this Texas team is very, very good. Obviously, this week's their matchup of the year. We'll get into that in a little bit, but very impressive win. Another week for Texas, very much impressed me. You can't really say anything bad about this team. Beating Bama a few weeks back, having a great game this weekend. They're just doing exactly what they have to do to make a run and beat Texas football. I'm really excited for this game this Saturday with Texas to see exactly what we can see out of them and see exactly what they can do.
Yeah, OU. This is a huge rivalry. We know what's coming down the pipe. I think the real question, the bigger conversation to pivot to is: are they a hard three or a soft three? Are they a hard third seed in the country? That third best team. I would say that they're a soft team. I think that they could fluctuate anywhere between a 3 and a 6, which is kind of why I wanted to bring this topic ahead to discussion, because I feel like the quality of their wins are there. I like Sark. I like what they're operating on. I know that he's pulling punches. I know that he's got even more up his sleeve on the offensive side of the standpoint. But my reservations with them are similar that they are with USC. I think that they're too fluffy. They're too through the air. They definitely have dimensions to their offense, but I still think they're just offensive heavy. And I would like to see a little more pushback from a team like a TCU or an Oklahoma, and this will be the first test. Now, I do think that they can run the table, but I just think when the committee looks back at these quality wins, towards the end of the year, I think that they're going to be looking more like a 4 or a 5, and it really depends on it. Really, all this is predicated on how the Big Ten shakes out, in my opinion. Because when you look at the second half of that top 10, I think there's a lot of questions to be answered as the season progresses with that cannibalism between Penn State, Ohio State, and Michigan, and to a lesser degree, teams like Maryland. I mean, there's really good teams across the Big Ten that could easily cannibalize each other, and it just depends on how that shakes out to see where Texas falls.
Absolutely. No, and I agree with that statement. Same thing with the Pac-12. They're going to cannibalize each other as well, where I think there's a good chance that everyone in that conference is a 1 or 2 loss team. There's a very good possibility. The only thing I will say that I think if the committee's looking at this right now, Texas is doing everything they have to do. They're beating the bad teams. Kansas is not a bad team. They're winning pretty comfortably. Bama winning on the road, I believe, winning by 10. They're doing what they have to do at this point of the season. Next week they go after this week, Oklahoma. They got Houston, BYU, TCU. If they just continue just outplaying these teams, I think we have a very good chance to see Texas in the Final Four.
I think my only reservation with them is, are they more icing than they are cake? And I think that they are. But like you said, Nico, like they're dominating the games that they need to dominate, and they're winning in that fashion. I mean, if you saw the numbers on paper, you would think this was the Miami-Denver game from there. Like it literally
it was at 700 yards.
Literally the same stat line, which is so crazy. We're not talking about it in the same conversation, but it's so wild. Yeah. I think this team is that legit. I just have to see how the Big Ten shakes out, and same with the Pac-12.
No, it's a fair point, because how can you put, like, you get a team, Notre Dame, I'll use as a perfect example. Notre Dame wins out, then you get a team like Ohio State that loses one game to a Penn State. What do you do with those two teams? It's tough. That's why I can't wait for 12 teams next year. But 4 teams right now, it's tough. And the only thing Texas can do is just keep balling out and just keep winning games, because Texas, unfortunately, with this schedule, I know you have that win against Bama. But how down the Big 12 is right now, I don't think you get in with a one loss. I don't think you can get in with one loss, even though you beat Bama. I don't think you can.
You got to run it. You got to run it.
That's it.
So this was my favorite game of the week. It was LSU at Ole Miss, and Ole Miss defeated the Tigers by a score of 55-49. What a rally. What a great fourth quarter. LSU's playoffs hopes are done, and they have some thinking to do. And Ole Miss gets this amazing victory for their school. How about this game, guys?
I think the president of athletics for LSU wants his money back from Brian Kelly. Shit, man, this is the biggest whiff on record that I could recall for me at least. I know that they lost a tight game, they lost a tough game, but you can't have two losses early in this juncture of the season, particularly when going up against Ole Miss. I mean, I'm sorry, like this is why they paid Brian Kelly the money they did to win these games. I gave them a pass at the beginning of the year because I think FSU is better than we thought they would be. But I mean, on paper, like Ole Miss stacked up 120 penalty yards. They had they had every reason to lose this game, and yet LSU still found a way to lose this game. They pretty much won on all three phases of the game and still blew it. It's unbelievable to me that you can have this kind of incompetence in the fourth quarter and still be able to show your face like Brian Kelly. You can't give up 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. It just can't happen. It can't happen with that lead. Everything you built through 3 quarters, it's completely unacceptable. And when I look at Jaden Daniels, I mean, he played a phenomenal game. He only missed 9 throws. He was perfect through the air, no turnovers. But it's just a matter of executing on defense and looking at how to close out games in tight windows and possessing the ball and finding ways to win. I just don't think that Brian Kelly has it like that. I don't think he'll have a better season in LSU than he did his last year or second to last year in Notre Dame.
That's a great take. Yeah, absolutely. I will say, about the game itself, unbelievable game, super fun.
Great game.
Fun to see back and forth. Little chippiness too as well. Love to see stuff like that. Just an overall fun game to watch. But I completely agree. Brian Kelly has to close out this game. 5 minutes left in the game, 5 minutes and 30 seconds or whatever it was, 6 minutes maybe. You have a 9-point lead, a 2-score lead, and you lose the football game. You got to put it away. That's what you're there for. You got to win LSU. You have to win these games. You lose. It's okay to lose a game like this if you beat Florida State. But you gotta win these games against top key matchups in order to compete and do. You're not there at LSU to go ahead and win I'm trying to think like a December 30th bowl, not a BCS bowl, but like even a BCS bowl. Like you're not there to win the noon Outback Bowl or in Florida. You're not there to win that. You're there to win national championships. That's why they brought in. That's what you have to do.
Right.
And right now, Brian Kelly, I don't know. You got to figure it out. Out.
You could make the former argument that it takes 3 years to get your crew in there, but the reality is with the NIL and with the transfer portal, you can pull a prime time and you can have your guys in there within a year. Now, I'm not saying that it equates to wins. That's obviously like the version of building a super team in the NBA. But the reality is you can be competitive at the top level, even in the SEC. So I don't want to hear excuses from Brian Kelly about his first year here. It's all nonsense. But Nico, you're absolutely right. 5 minutes left with a 9-point lead. Run the goddamn ball. Do not throw it through the air. Control the clock and put this baby away. This is so ridiculous. But I want to give a little credit to Ole Miss because we always kind of sweep them under the carpet because they lose a lot of these tight SEC games. They did put this game away. I think they're on the outside looking in, and if they continue to run their schedule, I haven't had a chance to look at it, but they have a very good possibility of sneaking in the back door in that top 10 towards the end of the season.
Absolutely, they're going to be tested throughout. But hey, that's one of those teams that come outscore us. They're just going to let you hear it. Let's have a shootout.
And it's pretty favorable too. They don't have a ranked opponent until Georgia.
Yeah, and Georgia. I know they go to Mississippi State later in the year. I think I believe. Like that's another one I had circled on that team.
I knew Brian Kelly was doomed after he pretended to have a Southern accent during his press conference. That was a sign to come. Let's be real.
It was bad. It was bad.
And you were talking about Florida State. Florida State was off this past week, but they're back at it, playing Virginia Tech. And right now, at this moment, they're ranked 5th in the nation, just right on the cusp of that playoff. Do we expect them to run their table in what looks like a more favorable schedule? And having players like another one, Jordan Travis, part of this, what could be a legendary quarterback class, and leading people and seeing where it can go. Does Florida State run the table moving forward?
I do think Florida State has a very, very good chance to run the table. But as me and Alex mentioned it, I believe it was earlier too in the show, the ACC, like these teams are sneaky. Like these teams, like a Miami team, like a Duke, a Wake Forest, a Syracuse. A little shout out there for myself. For basketball season coming soon. But like these teams are sneaky. Florida State is the type of team, I think, that loses one of these games. They lose a game to Wake Forest on noon on a Saturday. You'll lose a game on the road to a Syracuse, or to home to Syracuse, to a Duke. I do think Florida State, everything, the ball's in their court. All you have to do is win out, and you're going to be a favorite in every single one of these games until the end of the season. And you got to win out. You win out, you're in. You lose with how weak of a schedule it is, you're done. You're not really doing much. But hey, hats off to them right now. They're doing exactly what they need to do, and we'll see. Syracuse, I know they're off this week, but they have Syracuse are coming. But of course, they just keeps winning games and keeps doing what they have to do.
Yeah, no, all great points. I think it's very interesting to see how a team like this bounces back from a bye week, because with a young coach like Mike Norvell, we were kind of giving him his flowers early from the 4-0 start, but they kind of stumbled into the bye. I mean, they barely sneaked it out against Clemson. It should have been it was a lot closer than it should have been for comfort. And as the season progresses, I don't know what Clemson's going to be. My guess is more they're going to be towards the median in the league, outside looking in. So yeah, they have their sneaky opponents, scattered across the bottom of the top 25 in the ACC. And I think that they will have some hiccups in that regard, finishing out the season. But I think they could. I firmly believe they could run the gambit when it comes to the remaining schedule. I think the quality of wins will boil down to Duke and Miami, and just a matter of margin and things of that nature when it comes to analytics. But again, I just don't trust this committee being so SEC top heavy to put them in that top 4. If we're having that discussion, I think a more realistic picture is them remaining where they are at 5 or even 6 for that matter.
So it's definitely a possibility. I just glanced at their schedule a little more. There is not one game left where I think they're going to be a 5-point favorite at minimum in every single game from here on out, which is absurd. They have to have one of the weakest schedules in the whole country remaining. I know they go to Florida late in the year, but Florida is nowhere near what they should be. Like Alex said, if you don't win out, or if you keep if you lose to one of these teams, you're done. There's a chance that, like you said, if they do win out, they might not even get in. It depends if all these games are close. It just matters. I don't see a world where they don't get in if they win out, but I personally really think that Florida State will lose one of these games.
Well, I think it's more likely. I would take the over that they do run the table, but their margin of error is so slim because they're very, very close to being 2-2 instead of 4-0. They could have lost Clemson in overtime, and the Boston College gave them everything they wanted at home. So I am concerned. It really, again, it always boils down to who are the coaches you trust in the league, pro or college, off of a bye. And I'm hoping that Mike Norvell charts a territory forward, and he'll start being in the discussion with some of those bigger coaches in the league.
I want to talk about the Heisman Trophy candidates. Who do we think at this moment has the best chance to have the most prestigious award in all of college sports. I'll say one thing. It is no doubt going to be a quarterback. Like, you could bet on that for sure. Which quarterback is that? Is it the favorite across the nation? Is it Caleb Williams again? He would be the first back-to-back Heisman Trophy winner since the 70s. Or maybe it's somebody new. Maybe it is a Michael Penix Jr., who actually I'm going to pick right now, has the lead in this with very dominant victories, both being dominant, both running the ball, scrambling, and finding the open receivers. And I'm feeling really good about that. Bo Nix has been able to put up some stellar numbers as well. That could be a candidate. To be honest, though, I mean, that answer can change every single week at this point. The only thing I just really wonder, and the big factor is, would they give it to Caleb Williams again? And that could be whether that's for stock reasons. It is kind of crazy to think that he can return to USC next year and try to go for a three-peat if they were that crazy. And because of the NIL influence, he doesn't have to rush to the draft, especially getting paid, which I believe he acknowledged that in an interview. So, there are so many possibilities going there. Again, I'm pretty sure you're going to get a quarterback out of it, and we'll see what happens. But that's what I think.
I'm a little disappointed. I'm a little disappointed you're already off your boy Hartman for Heisman. Come on.
The only thing with that is now listen, Hardman is my guy the whole way through, but I'm thinking with my head on this one. But that loss I really think is going to be detrimental with Ohio State, and I don't even think it's necessarily its fault, but I'm just trying to think of what these old prestigious college committee is in, and every little factor there.
It's an individual stats, man. It's an individual's award.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nicho, who you got?
So, what my prediction is, obviously I think Caleb Williams is the best player in all of college football, but he is not my pick to win the Heisman. My pick to win the Heisman is Bo Nix, and it's not because of Bo Nix being Bo Nix. Obviously, he's playing great, doing great things. The top three Heisman, it's the kid from Washington, Perks from Washington, Caleb Williams, and Bo Nix. The winner of that Pac-12 is going to get that trophy at the end of the year. And the winner of the Pac-12 at the end of the year is going to be Oregon. And Oregon is going to go on, and they're going to win. They're going to make the playoff, and Bo Nix is going to win the Heisman Trophy. It's not the Heisman's not going to be, is Caleb Williams better than Bo Nix? 100%. No doubt about it. Caleb Williams, clear overall, first overall pick. But I will say, Bo Nix, it's his time. He will be the Heisman winner after his 18th year in college.
I can't disagree. You actually took the words out of my mouth. I think that what I've seen through 5 weeks as a preemptive cursor, I think Oregon is the best team in the Pac-12, but I have to see it in 2 weeks against Washington, and I'll be solidified in that prediction, because I think this really boils down to if Bo Nix outplays Penix Jr. at his house, then Bo Nix is winning the award, because kind of, in parallel alignment with my argument earlier in the show, is that USC is a system of Lincoln Riley, and they have one way to win. And if Caleb Williams did not deliver a perfect game every week, they cannot stay undefeated. So thus concluding, if Bo Nix can just ride the ship, stay undefeated, and even if he continues on this 15-1 ratio course, I think that he's easily, arguably in a way, the Heisman favorite right now.
Great take.
Great take indeed. Okay. Again, plenty of football to go. There's still a whole second half, but compelling arguments throughout it, and we'll see what ultimately happens. So why don't we make our picks for week 6 as we officially cross the other side. So let's do it, guys. Let's start on Saturday afternoon, going through the biggest games of the week. We have Oklahoma facing Texas, 12 p.m. Huge primetime game against two undefeated opponents. Texas is minus 6.5. What do we see?
Yeah, this game is, I personally won't be betting on the game. even though it's too hard. I do think Texas gets the W. 6.5 is a great line because I can see Texas winning by a touchdown. I can see Texas winning by a field goal. I don't see Oklahoma winning this game outright. But I really do like the Longhorns in this game. Every year, 12 o'clock, they play the game. Cotton Bowl site, can't beat it. It's just such a historic matchup, and I just love it when it means so much. It's so great to see old school rivalries, old school games like this just mean so much. It's great. It's great for the brand. It's great for college football.
100%. I think 6 is a great line. I think that somewhere in between the weeds, this is smelling like an OU upset. Like I'm already shouting to Norman from here, but I just think Texas is due for a tough game. I really think they're going to have their hands full with OU. Now, this kind of goes in the face of that Cincinnati game we predicted 2 weeks back, but I do stand by my pick here in this week, and I think that they are not going to cover, but they're going to win a tight game and a field goal.
Nice. I'm also going to take the Texas Longhorns on this. It's going to be a shootout. So if I had to take the points, probably take plus 6.5 for Oklahoma. But I do think Texas secures the victory. That will be huge for their season moving forward.
The Red River.
That's right. Classic rivalry. So we have here a big spread, but I want to know your honest opinions against these other two undefeated teams, where the Maryland Terrapins are going against the Ohio State Buckeyes. Ohio State's opening up at -20, but do we have a feeling that something could change, or you think Ohio State will be able to handle them easily?
This is a trap. This is a trap for anybody betting. 20 is too big a number for Maryland. I may have rose-tinted glasses because my family, shout out, I was in D.C. Big Maryland fans, former alumni, the whole thing, the whole yard. They have Melo Trimble jerseys. That's a whole other issue. But they what I've seen with them through 5 weeks, they've kept all their games competitive. I see this as a 2-score game under 20. So I would have Ohio State winning but not covering the spread. I think it's just too big of a margin for a game like this.
I get what you're saying. I think Maryland is a great football team, a very underrated football team. But with that being said, if I'm Ohio State, 20 is pissing me off. I had just beat Notre Dame. I'm on a bye, and I'm still being shafted. I'm not getting the respect that I feel like I deserve. I wouldn't be surprised if Ohio State comes in here. Maryland's 5-0. People think they're good. Let's fucking win this game by 35, 40 points. Let's dominate this Maryland team and show we are the Ohio State University. I think Ohio State wins this game in a lopside. I think it's like a 48-14 final.
You don't think them coming to the top of the mountain with the win against Notre Dame, you don't think they're going to be passing headwinds going downhill?
Normally, I would agree. I would definitely agree with that take, like coming off a win like that. But having a bye week to kind of relax off of that, and on top of it, nobody was giving you credit versus Notre Dame. And see how fired up they was when Bullhorn at the end of that game. That was pretty wild. But I will make the comment that if I'm Ohio State, I'm pissed off. You feel like you're still not getting the credit you deserve right now, and you're gonna prove it on Saturday. You're gonna wall Maryland.
Yeah, give you the Buckeyes for that very reason. And Ryan Day is a madman, so I want to stay away from him when he's angry. So LSU is at 23, on the cusp of not even being ranked anymore. They are going against another undefeated 21st ranked Missouri. LSU does open at -6.5 on the road. What happens?
I like Missouri. Getting 5.5 here. Some books are showing it at 6. I do like Missouri with the points in this game at home. The only thing I don't love about it is Brian Kelly coming off a loss. He has to really win this game. It's arguably a must win for them. Obviously, their chances for the playoff are long gone. But Brian Kelly has to win this game. But how motivated is your team when you're only playing for a team that's expected to possibly be a playoff is already out, and here we are in early October. It's going to be tough for him to motivate his team. Where Missouri right now, Missouri's balling out. They're ranked in the top 25. Give me Missouri outright in this game.
Wow, interesting take. I'm going to take the opposite approach. I actually see LSU in a statement game here. It just smells like a statement game because of all the circumstantial evidence that we've seen for 5 weeks up to this game. I think you can start seeing some of Brian Kelly's face slipping through his fingers. I think he needs to regain confidence in this team, amidst controversy and chaos through the middle portion of the season. Every team kind of faces it to a certain extent. I think if he's going to retain his guys through the NIL and really build a culture there, I think it's games like this that he needs to really rise and shine. And for all those reasons, like you said, Nico, I think I'm taking the opposite approach. I think that he is going to have a statement game here in Missouri, and I think they win in a blowout, more than 2 touchdowns.
Give me Missouri with the upset to completely have that season collapse. It doesn't seem the team's that disciplined, and I really think there are some concerns going on right there, and I think it's going to continue. And I would just love to see Missouri, who've had who always seem to be playing meaningful, big highlighted games, whether it's basketball or football. They seem to always show up when they're playing a big team that is making the national spotlight. So give me that and have the panic. I'm interested in Washington State versus UCLA, 13th ranked Washington State, where they are still undefeated. UCLA, 3-1 in the Pac-12 in their final season there. They're playing at home. Probably no one's going to be there as per usual. But I'm going to go with Washington State as this upset as well. And they've actually been sneaky good this year, and especially offensively. So I'm going to go with the first time we're talking about the Washington State Tigers on this one. They're the Tigers, right? Just to make sure. Cougars, excuse me.
Yeah.
So
A lot of milk
Washington State.
A lot of milk up there.
I bet.
I do think I am a little opposite here. I think UCLA gets a job done at home. I have UCLA winning this football game. I think the odds makers got it right with 3.5 here. I will still probably be taking UCLA, but I just really think UCLA has a defense with a Chip Kelly offense. It's an interesting combination where this team has an early loss, but I think Washington State is a fluky team. And like we said earlier in the show, Pac-12 is going to continue to eat itself alive. That's all they're going to do. And give me UCLA to win this game.
Interesting. So are you sticking with the 3 then?
Yeah, my thing is I'll probably take UCLA money line. I think it's minus 165. On Saturday I'll probably have that probably something small, but 3 is a great number. It's one of those games where it's 24-21 UCLA final.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Yeah, I don't know what to make of this Washington State team. I mean, I've seen a lot of evidence with the North. Some of these shit opponents, but then the Oregon State game they kept tight. I don't know if it's true 13 or not, but I'm gonna take UCLA similarly in the upset at home. I think that this is just an ill-prepared matchup on the road. It's a tough situation, tough environment, and I think they're due for their first loss of the year. I think that this is it's a great team. They could full well run the course for the rest of the season. Minus Oregon, of course, but even in Washington the last week of the year. But no, I think this is a very good blossoming team. It's really hard to weigh some of these back end Pac-12 teams, and I don't know if they're a true 13 or not.
I get it. So we have another rivalry game. Alabama is going to Texas A&M. Alabama opening at just a small minus 1.5. What's about to happen here, guys?
Yeah, it's a weird game. It's a tough game. Another game that it's going to be a great game to watch, but I will be staying away from betting because I really don't know what to expect. Obviously, it's a must-win for both teams. Bama desperately needs it. Texas A&M, if they want any chance to stay alive, they need to win this game as well. Gun to my head, I'll take Bama pulling out a close one, but I really think this is a game that can come down to a 21-20 score in the fourth quarter. Texas A&M goes for 2, something interesting like that, and either or can happen.
Oh, definitely either or could happen. This game is a toss-up for me too. I think it's a field goal game either way. It's a low-scoring affair because Alabama only has a few ways to win, and they're gonna control the clock. They're gonna keep A&M in the mud, so to speak. I think this is a 21-18 type of game. Bama.
All right, good. So we have Syracuse going to Chapel Hill, 4-1 Syracuse versus 14th ranked North Carolina with Drake May and the boys there. UNC opening at -8. You feeling an upset for your team, Mr. Nicho?
So I will say Syracuse football. I'm just to clarify for the viewers and everything. Not a big Syracuse basketball. Syracuse football, I'll root for them, root for Penn State. I'm nowhere near have my heart in either or. But I don't, unfortunately. I think UNC wins this game. Do I think Syracuse scores? Absolutely. My favorite play in this game is North Carolina team total over. As I really think is an interesting play. I want to say it's around 30.5, maybe, probably a little more. Maybe like 34.5, something like that. But UNC team total is my favorite play. I do think UNC wins this game easily, but by a score of like 42-24, where like Syracuse is kind of there, but they're not. It's going to be more of a distant game than it looks
They're
like.
there. They're there for the first half, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Then they'll kind of run them into the ground in the second half.
I agree.
Yeah, exactly. I kind of see the same way Nico seeing a shakeout. I mean, we talked about the ACC cannibalism, but I firmly believe that. I think this is one of those games. It's more clear cut than obvious that you don't really have to overthink it. I think UNC is the better team and show in the second half. You won't have to bend over, Nico. It's okay.
Make me laugh. The University of Kentucky is going to play the University of Georgia in this SEC matchup. Georgia opening at -15.
Oh, I'm taking the points. I think this is going to be a tight affair, probably around 10. I think Kentucky will keep it close in the first half, and Georgia will pull away in the long game. Again, we haven't seen them tested thus far. I think this is one step in the same direction that Auburn was taking last week, and I see this somewhere around a 31-21 kind of game.
This is one of my favorite bets of the week. Early bets of the week is in this game, and it is the under. I don't think this game is going to go anywhere near the total of 48.5. I really think Georgia does get the win, but I think it's going to be a sloppy 13-7 dogfight. It's going to be an old school game. I really think it's going to be super low scoring.
Wow.
I really don't expect more than 35 points in this game, to be honest with you. But yeah, I do think Georgia wins the game. It's going to be a sloppy game for both teams, and we'll be here next week talking about how legit is this Georgia team.
I wonder what the weather is down the coast in Georgia for this weekend.
Yeah, that I did not check.
Yeah,
I have that for you. It's supposed to be 65 and sunny.
Oh, damn, that's beautiful.
For a night game. So no weather factors there. So even though we always do the picks for the top 25, I just love to do this to Alex with UConn going to Rice University. The 3-2 Rice Owls taking on the UConn Huskies at 0-5. The Owls open at -10. Does UConn close this spread, or they continue to lose? I say UConn's gonna keep losing.
The only thing I want out of this game, because it's such an inconsequential nobody game, I just want to see if they ask Jim Mora Jr. after the game if they're going to be going to the playoffs, just so he can go playoffs. Just like his daddy. But no, I firmly believe that that UConn will find a way to lose this game.
That'd be a disgrace.
Definitely a nothing burger. It's not a ranked game, so I could give two shits.
Yeah, no, I really I actually did look at this game just in case we did bring it up on the show, because I know like Alex with UConn.
I'll always bring up UConn for
so
Alex.
I had a feeling. And I actually found the bet that I do like in this game. I like UConn's team total under. I don't know how powerful Rice is on offense, But after watching UConn and having some bets on them the first couple weeks, this team is pitiful offensively. Sorry, Alex. I'm not a big UConn guy to begin with, but pitiful offense. That maybe their defense can maybe make it competitive, but yeah, rough. It's like Matt Canada.
I just let me tell you all, especially you, Matt. I want to tell you something. I want the same energy November 6th when the basketball kicks off. I want the same energy when we come out defending champs.
Just
of course I'm not gonna do that. Of course I'm gonna be fake there.
Syracuse is back. Syracuse is back to Syracuse, and I can't wait. Can't wait. You kind of had their success the past decade. It's our time.
Uh-oh. I like it. I like it. So we have the excuse me. Notre Dame is going to Louisville. Louisville. So I have a very close family friend who grew up in Louisville. Gotta ask him. He's a big college football fan too, but he's one of the few kids our age who truly is off the grid. He has a phone, but he has no social media. You can only contact him through Snapchat. And last time I talked to him, he was living in Sweden. I don't know. He's a mystery, but that's my Louisville connection there. And but Notre Dame only opening at -6 excuse me. Notre Dame only minus at 6.5 here. Give me the points for the Fighting Irish on this. And Sam Hartman gets me feeling more confident. Even though I want to see him get that Heisman, I still think he needs to put up some more solid offensive points moving forward. And getting a nice ranked victory is going to help.
Absolutely. I do think Notre Dame wins this game. I also think they cover, but I don't want to guarantee a coverage because Louisville is a sneaky team. Louisville is good. They're decent. They have a very good possibility to compete and win this game, but I just don't see a world where it happens. Not trying to sound like my bets are all team total bets, but one bet I really do like is Louisville team total under 23.5. Can maybe get it at 24.5 on some books. I think this Notre Dame defense is such a test, and it's so tough that I really think Louisville's going to have trouble finding the end zone. Do I think they'll get yards? Absolutely. I just don't see them doing more than kicking field goals once they get down in Notre Dame territory.
Yeah, I'm kind of along the same lines. I think they do cover. I would actually take the points for Notre Dame. I think that this is like one of those statement games in the gambit for them to take hold of. I think they win by at least 10 points. And no, Louisville's a very good team, but I just think that Notre Dame they're smelling blood in the water across the league. And I think that they're like right on that cusp where they can take control of their own destiny. And I think that this is one of those games to start that right.
All right. And the last game to discuss, I think, is worth discussing, is after almost blowing it, USC is back at home to play the University of Arizona. 21.5 is the number. Do you think USC, going down to 9, and we talked about how, with major struggles on defense, do you think they will just have a revenge spot on the Wildcats?
I think it's going to be what we've seen with USC all year. I think they're going to win the game. It's going to be kind of distant, but Arizona's going to score and cover this football game. I think it's going to be same game, other day, is my opinion. Caleb Williams is going to ball out. They're going to score 48 points, but they're going to allow 35. And that's what I realistically see in a game like this. I don't see a world where USC loses this game, neither where this game's a one-possession game in the fourth quarter, but I do see this being a possible backdoor cover game for Arizona, or definitely a game where Arizona competes and maybe loses by 14 to 17.
Yeah, couldn't have said it better. I think this is exactly kind of the vein of this type of game. Again, Lincoln Riley has one way of winning. They're going to run up the scoreboard and they're going to start retreating and playing a little, prevent defense hypothetically throughout the game. So I think that Arizona will get their points and they'll narrow the gap to the end of the game. I see it somewhere around a 10-point margin.
All right, gentlemen. I think we did a lot of great work. Thank you so much. We will see you next week with both the NFL and college football. And let's win some money and let's have a wonderful weekend. Alex and Nicho, great work.
Cool.